Hey everybody, happy Monday, and we're on for chapter 23 today in Framed. This chapter is titled An Actor Named John Wilkes Booth. Once Nikolai Nevrescu entered the story, preserving my covert status became more essential. I wasn't allowed to call or text Agent Rivers, and I certainly couldn't just show up at the Hoover building and ask to see him. If I wanted to make contact, he told me I needed to do so by way of a website made especially for people like me. You mean secret agents? I asked, charged with excitement. No, I mean middle schoolers, he answered, bringing me back to earth. The FBI Kids page is a site for students who want to learn about the Bureau. It has video clips, interactive games, animations, and a link called Ask an Agent. I clicked the link and signed in as 12-year-old Johann Blankfort of Bethesda, Maryland. My question: how can you meet an agent in person? Soon I received a standard response that told me about community outreach programs, such as the demonstrations put on by the FBI's Canine Explosives Detection Team, where agents were available to the public. Then the next morning, while Margaret and I were walking to school, I got a text from a phone number I didn't recognize. It read, "Tell Johann to visit our American cousin after school today." That was it. I waited for another text that might, explain what that one meant, but none came. "Who's that from?" Margaret asked. "Agent Rivers." "What's he have to say?" Sigh. I have absolutely no idea. She read the text and asked, "Who's Johann?" "I am. Johann Blankfort is my secret identity with the Bureau." "Get out!" She stopped in her tracks and turned to face me. "You have an actual government-issued secret identity?" "I've even got fake IDs," I said, fighting back an ear-to-ear grin. "That may be the coolest thing I've ever heard," she replied. "But if you're Johann, then who's your American cousin?" I spent most of the day trying to figure that out. I must have reread the text 100 times, including once during life science, which cost me 3 class participation points. But it wasn't until lunch that I paid attention to the fact that the words, "our American cousin," were all capitalized. "You think that's important?" Margaret asked when I pointed it out to her. "People are kind of random when it comes to punctuation in texts." "Agent Rivers isn't random about anything," I countered. "If it's capitalized, it must be the title of something." I Googled Our American Cousin and found it was the name of the play Abraham Lincoln was watching the night he was assassinated. Now I knew what I was supposed to do. After school, I got on the metro and took the Red Line to Gallery Place. I'm guessing the instant I used my Smart Trip card, a message alerted Agent Rivers I was on my way. From the subway station, it was just a short walk to Ford's Theater. On April 14th, 1865, Abraham Lincoln went to Ford's to watch a performance of Our American Cousin. During the play's third act, he was shot by John Wilkes Booth. Now it was a historic site run by the National Park Service. It also happened to be right around the corner from FBI headquarters. I got my ticket and blended in with all the tourists walking through the exhibits that detailed the events leading up to the president's death. I was looking at the actual Derringer pistol Booth used to kill him when the man standing next to me asked a question. "How long did it take you to figure out where we were meeting?" I glanced up and saw it was Agent Rivers. "Most of the day," I said, "and I got in trouble for looking at my phone during class." "Sorry about that," he said, "but I knew you'd solve it." If anyone happened to notice us, we just looked like tourists on vacation. He'd swapped his normal suit and tie for a Nationals t-shirt and a pair of jeans. For the most part, we didn't even look at each other. We just kept our eyes on the exhibits and talked quietly. "So what did you find out?" he asked. "A lot," I replied. "Last year, Pavel Novak and 5 staff members from the National Gallery were at the same trade show in Budapest." "Anyone we know on that trip?" he asked. "Earl Jackson and Serena Miller." I could see his reflection in the exhibit glass, and his reaction was as surprised as mine had been. "Really? Earl and Serena?" "It gets worse. Miller took 2 more trips to Europe, including one to Prague, 2 weeks before Novak entered the country." "That's interesting." I keep thinking back to when Earl's name came up at the dinner party. She was so adamant that he couldn't be involved. I thought it was because she trusted him, but maybe she was just worried that if we pursued him, it would lead to her as well. What about the auctions? More good news, I said. It turns out an anonymous bidder has tried and failed to acquire a major impressionist work at 9 different auctions. He's put up a lot of money and is no doubt frustrated that he keeps losing. If the bidder's anonymous, how does it help us? Asked Rivers. Well, we know that the money's coming from Romania, I said, and also that the bids were placed by a company here in Washington. So it could be Nevrescu laundering the money for his father? I nodded. I looked him up some more, I said. He really likes to get involved in cultural events, especially ones in the Romanian American community. Right. So in 2 weeks, there's an open house at the Romanian embassy. They're calling it a festival of food and family. He's one of the sponsors of the event. He'll be there. Maybe, said Rivers, but we sure won't. Why not? I asked. It's a chance to interact with him in public, a chance to see who he's meeting with. We already have him under surveillance a lot of the time, he reminded me. So we know most of the people he meets with. But more important, we're not allowed to go inside an embassy. You're the FBI. You can go anywhere you want. In America, he said. But as soon as you set foot onto embassy grounds, by law, you are in that country. If I tried to investigate someone while they were in that building, it would be seen as a violation of their sovereignty. Before you know it, the State Department's involved, and there's an international incident. Oh, I said, slightly embarrassed. I didn't realize the legal part of it. That's okay. You're the kid, and I'm the FBI agent. I'm the one who's supposed to know that, he told me. But you've done an amazing job, Florian. You've given us a lot to build on. I love doing it, I told him. What can I work on next? He looked at me, sighed, and put his hand on my shoulder. Past experience told me I wasn't going to like what he said next. Nothing, he answered. You can't do anything involving the woman with a parasol case. I don't even want you working on it at home. I was devastated. But you just said I'd done an amazing job. You have, he said, but we can't risk your safety. The more likely it is that Nevrescu is involved, the more likely it is that you're in danger. Why? Just because we were both at the same soccer game? I'm sorry, Florian, but that's more than enough for me. But it was just a coincidence, I argued. There were tons of people there. Besides, if he wanted to do anything to me, don't you think he would have done it just then, when he had the chance? Rather than answer, Rivers turned toward the enlarged picture on display in front of us. This photograph was taken at Abraham Lincoln's second inauguration, he said, 6 weeks before he was killed. The photo was of a massive crowd on the steps of the Capitol building. In the middle of them all, you could see Abraham Lincoln standing behind a podium, reading his speech. Lincoln's in the middle, but do you know who this is? He pointed to a man in the crowd of people looking down on the president from behind. No, who is it? He's an actor named John Wilkes Booth, he said. But there were tons of people there. And besides, if he wanted to hurt the president, don't you think he would have done it when he had a chance? I stood there silently and considered what he was saying. You tell me, said Rivers. You think him being there was a coincidence? That's the end of chapter 23. Have yourselves a good day.